Sometimes it pays to be irresponsible. By Mike Bennett. Read by Mike Bennett. I had just pulled up to my house. School got out a little early. I walked up to my front door with a warm bag of fast food and a cool soft drink in my hand, when Mike and David pulled up in their Jeep. "Let's go to the island," David called. "I can't. I've got work to do," I replied, holding up the bag of food. "Come on, you know you'll be glad you went." This was the beginning of a well-rehearsed taunting that would not end unless I gave in. "Fine, I'll meet you at your house in a minute, but let me eat first," I reluctantly subsided. I chomped down my lunch in a Scooby-Doo style and dug out my fishing vest. Gave my camera lens a cleaning, and before I knew it, we were driving across the Pineda Causeway with the kayaks loaded into Ray's truck. This was the first time I've been to Ramp Road off of A1A in Cocoa Beach. One of Florida's best-kept secrets lay hidden behind the Harbor Island condos. The dark green water trails through thousands of mangrove-covered islands. Even with an aerial map navigating this massive tangle of tropical plants, poisonous snakes, and shallow waters can be difficult, to say the least. Once in the water, it becomes inspiringly clear how dense this small place is. The Thousand Islands were formed when Cocoa Beach was struck by a gigantic wave about 3,000 years ago. The islands are a sediment left behind from what is known as a flood tide delta. In the 1960s and 70s, the islands were carved into mosquito traps to save the massive populace that was arriving during the moon race. Now the lagoon is covered in over hundreds of different plants and thousands of animals ranging from birds to fish to insects to mammals and reptiles. After paddling only a few feet past the dock and around the first bend, I started to laugh out loud. Everyone turned in their kayaks and stared at me with anger at my outburst. "I'm sorry," composing myself. "It's just that you're right, David. I'm glad I'm out here." The cool shade was creeping in all around me, and the wide river gave way to small tunnels. Soon the water became tight and my paddle wouldn't even fit. I had to collapse it and grab onto the foliage around me and pull myself through. The astounding calm of the world in that thick underbrush. No animal noises, no crickets chirping, no frogs croaking, just silence, and the slap of the kayak in the water. Soon the tunnels opened to wide waterways, each one deceptively similar. Details are the only way to navigate such a labyrinth. David decided to split up and try to find our way to a place we'll refer to as the North Pole. We spent a good while paddling around and around looking for this elusive North Pole, and it would be hours later when we finally see Mike and Ray again, for they got lost too. Mike was able to spot us from a tree and navigate us to the North Pole, and it was agreed that the lower water level had changed the landscape considerably. Once we drank the celebratory Budweiser, we began wandering the island. We jumped across the muck bridge and down the Cactus Highway, only to turn around and have to go back over the muck bridge. As David stepped across the wooden post that stuck out of the mud, his foot slipped off and it sent him down to his knee in the mud. Amazingly, I made it across with no incident. While exploring the north end of the island, we discovered a stash of dried, dead Christmas trees. So we did the only thing that any good citizen would do. We stood one up and lit it on fire. The blaze of heat was so intense, I feared for the plastic in the camera. After a showstopper like that, we agreed that it was time to leave this magical place and head home before the sun went down. On the last leg of our journey, we paddled down to the southernmost tip of the Thousand Islands, and we saw the colossal weathered stumps of the trees that died many hurricanes ago, sticking out like jagged reminders. The sun was beginning to set on the shore, and the mainland and the orange glare of the sun's rays danced on the murky water. My arms were throbbing with pain from such a fun day. I'm not used to this much exercise. Not knowing if I could make it the last few feet, I began taking more and more rest stops, which forced me to notice the delicate ripples in the miniature waves crashing on the shore, and the shades of green leaves above my head as numerous as the stars. the small patches of brilliant blue sky which occasionally peeked through the dense underbrush. Sitting there motionless in the water, listening to the egrets calling out the approach of night, I couldn't help chuckle to myself. This sure as hell beats sitting in a desk.